AC, Porter Ward versus Danielle Newbern, Attorney Storm for plaintiff.
Okay. Good afternoon. We don't have Miss Ives yet, but
Okay.
I want to get on the record so when she does appear that we can get going in this matter. And hopefully she'll show up here pretty soon. If she shows up much later, then we'll start and she can join in when she finally gets there.
Okay. I do, depending on what Ms. Ives does appear, I might have a preliminary matter to put on the record for the court to just address, but I'll wait until Ms. Ives gets here.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, I'm having a little bit of a login difficulty. I think we're all good now, though. 1 second, let me flip my computer around.
Ms. Storm said she had some preliminary matter before we started today, Ms. Ives. So go ahead, Ms. Storm.
Thank you. I was informed by my client that Ms. Ives had sent out subpoenas to both the secretary and the child's teacher at Battle Creek Montessori. I believe it was end of last week, shortly after our hearing. We did find this out this week, just within the last couple days. And I would object to the calling of any additional witnesses for multiple reasons. And by additional witnesses, I mean the ones not already disclosed in the witness and exhibit list filed with the court. First, we do have the scheduling order that said that it had to be disclosed by November 13th. I have not received anything from Ms. Ives regarding any additional witnesses or desire to call them. There's been no copy or notice of these subpoenas actually sent to me. All I have is word of mouth that has been received by my client from these individuals. You know, these individuals weren't unknown at the time. They're the secretary and teacher of the child. They could have been included in her witness list at that time. They weren't listed on mine at any point. I've had no opportunity to prepare for them. And based on the fact that there was objections to my updated exhibits that had happened since October 13th, despite any relevance they have, I would request the same standard be held that Ms. Ives is not allowed to bring additional witnesses that she didn't already disclose.
Okay, Ms. Ives, your response.
Thank you, Your Honor. I was going to be calling these witnesses as rebuttal witnesses to testimony. So I could not have expected them until after the testimony of which I anticipate from Mr. Ward and also from, I believe, the principal that testified last week. I did have them subpoenaed for today, but quite frankly, I doubt that we will get to my rebuttal witnesses as we're still on Mr. Ward's testimony. So I don't believe they'll testify today anyway, but I do believe that they would be appropriate rebuttal witnesses just to rebut testimony that's previously been heard before the court. Thank you.
Ms. Storm.
Again, I renew my objection. I understand that Ms. Ives is trying to say that these are rebuttal witnesses. However, I would also have additional witnesses to rebut the evidence that is been presented by Ms. Ives' witnesses and presumably by the witnesses she plans to call. If we continue to expand with these rebuttal witnesses, this will be a hearing that will never end.
Well, unfortunately, I think it's already that.
And therefore, all the more reason to keep things limited, Your Honor. We already have this day and one more day. We'd like to try and keep this as concise as possible, hence the request.
Okay. Well, in this matter, I don't like to limit rebuttal witnesses, but I will tell you, if we let the rebuttal witnesses testify, it'll be strictly limited to rebuttal. I'm not going to let you go into anything else that does not directly rebut other people's testimony. So don't assume that by putting them down as rebuttal that you're going to get all sorts of other stuff in, because they're going to have to rebut what was testified to, or they won't be able to testify. I guess I'll ask at this point, Ms. Storm, how many witnesses do you have left?
I have Ms. Rose Crocker, who I believe is waiting to stand by.
I didn't ask who, I asked how many.
Your Honor, I have 4 witnesses total. My client, the other party, Ms. Newbern, my client's girlfriend, and Miss Crocker.
Okay.
Wait, who was that fifth one?
My second oldest son.
Ms. Ives, how many do you have?
Sorry, I guess we had 5 total.
6.
Your Honor, at this point, I believe that we are going to have at least 4 witnesses testifying, maybe 2 or 3 rebuttal witnesses, and I do understand that that would be limited, as the court has just directed.
Okay, well, as we go into that, I just want to mention, this case does involve limited issues, meaning joint legal custody and the school attendance. And we did take a full day of testimony last Thursday, and I will quite frankly tell the attorneys much of that testimony was irrelevant, redundant, and really not too helpful to the court. We'll hear the matter today, and then we have next Wednesday's afternoon scheduled. And if the testimony drags on like it did last week, the court will impose time limits on both attorneys so that we can get this matter concluded. And just so you know, we do have next Wednesday. I had something get settled for next Thursday. So what happens is if we don't get done next Wednesday, we will go next Thursday. So I don't know what the two of you have, but you're going to have to clear your schedules because I want to get this matter over and I'm not going to let it continue to drag on like it did last week. So with that, Ms. Storm, I will proceed with continuation of your client. In this matter, Mr. Ward, you're still under oath. You understand that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Storm.
Your Honor, I would actually request to see if Ms. Rose Crocker is available. She is actually testifying in Calhoun, or not testifying. She's part of a jury right now in Calhoun. And based on her subpoena earlier and disclosure as a witness, she had made arrangements to be available around 1:30 today.
She's not there yet.
She's not there yet.
She's not on yet. What we'll do is you can continue with your client, and if she comes in, then we'll break and then switch over.
Sounds good. Will do, Your Honor. All right.
Go
So
ahead.
Porter, we're gonna move the computer close. We're gonna make sure we're talking directly into the speaker or into the microphone, okay? Regarding the early pickup from school from Dudley, what was the purpose of the early pickup again?
Conflict of time.
And what was the conflict?
I pick up my stepdaughter from school as well.
And by stepdaughter, do you mean your girlfriend's child, Coralina?
Yes.
Okay. And regarding the conversations that you've had with Ms. Newbern regarding the injuries that were happening at the daycare originally, what did you tell her and what was the response that you would usually get?
When I would initially tell her, she would be upset with the school for not relaying the information to us properly, as they supposedly use their app and never received any information.
And at any point, did she have a particularly strong reaction to any of the injuries?
Yes.
What was that injury and what was her reaction?
The last one on his face, nobody said anything about it, and that was the reason why we went to the Montessori to look about changing schools in the first place.
Okay. And was Ms. Newbern with you for that change?
Yes.
Okay. And when I say with you, was she in person for the walkthrough that was testified to earlier?
Yes.
Okay. And your current home environment, you live with your girlfriend and Coralina?
Yes.
And does anyone else live with you guys other than the two of you and the 2 children?
No.
How many bedrooms?
3.
And does each child have their own bedroom?
Yes.
Do they have their own bed?
Yes.
And how long have you lived in that current residence?
Going on 2 years now.
Okay. And do you do activities with just Demetrius during your parenting time?
Yes, I do.
What sort of activities?
Anything he wants to do, soccer, baseball, he wants to climb on the jungle gym, anything. Coloring, writing.
Okay. Do you also do activities with Alicia and both the kids together?
Yes.
What sort of activities do you do?
We go to the zoos a lot. We like going to the zoos. Anything informational for the children, especially family time, holiday stuff, Christmas, anything.
And when you say holidays, do you get together with your family or who do you get together with?
My family's limited. I only have my brother here. We do stuff from time to time, walk the lights, go see any type of Christmas stuff mostly. Sometimes in the spring we'll do Easter and whatnot at the Arboretum
Okay. How often would you say you do these activities with Demetrius and Coralina together?
regularly.
And when you say regularly, how regularly are we talking?
If not every weekend, it's every other weekend. Sometimes we might go 2 or 3 weeks without doing anything over the weekend.
Okay. Um, has Danielle ever been invited to join any of these activities or special occasions?
The only things that she's been invited to that's been stuff for Dimitri specifically. She's not been invited to full family outings for Alicia's family and that side.
Okay. How would you describe the relationship between Demetrius and Coralina?
Great. They're brother and sister. That's the way he sees it.
All right. So even though you and Alicia aren't married, he views Coralina as a sister?
Absolutely.
Okay. And how do you know that?
He's stated it. He doesn't like people picking on her at school when they're at
I'm
school.
going to object if it's here. I'm going to object because I believe that this would be hearsay, Your Honor.
Ms. Storm?
I'd say it has to go to the child's state of mind regarding the relationships that he has in his home.
Well, I guess that's pretty attenuated, to state that what he might say goes to that particular relationship, so I'm gonna sustain the objection.
Okay. Does he demonstrate affection for Coralina?
Yes,
How so?
affectionately hugs. They want to pray together at bedtime.
Okay. How would you describe the relationship between Demetrius and Alicia?
Great.
And again, go into some details about what does great look like or mean.
He acts like she is another mother to him.
And how do you, again, not talking about what he says, but how is that demonstrated?
Physically, emotionally. Just as you would expect a mother to be.
Okay. And how would you describe the relationship between Demetrius and yourself?
Great.
Again, let's go into detail about what great means.
I don't have any complaints in the aspect of a father and son relationship. I try to teach him the basics of being a man.
And do you two show affection to each other?
Absolutely.
How so?
Typical hugs, love, embraces when he's hurt, everything that you would expect a father to do.
Okay. Does he go to you when he's upset or angry or in trouble, anything like that?
Yes.
And how does he respond to your discipline?
As most children do, they don't like it. When you got to go to timeout, you got to do your time, and then we discuss the issue afterwards, so that way we know what we did wrong to not do it again.
Do you ever use physical punishment on him?
No.
What sort of, you said timeouts and discussion. What else do you use for discipline?
Loss of electronics mostly. He likes to play with anything electronic, whether it be the TV, his phone, that he usually tends to lose because he has not followed the rules of that.
Okay. And how often does that happen?
Which part?
The loss of electronics or needing to do
That's
timeouts?
actually the loss of electronics is quite often. He has been known to lie, and this is his recourse for it. He's not allowed to have electronics if he continues to lie, and we try to explain to him the boy that cried wolf. This is a reference, and he's like, he's starting to understand it now, and he knows that he's trying to learn to get that back.
Okay. So how would you, we're going to shift now to you and Ms. Newbern. How would you describe the communication between the two of you?
That's kind of hard to say because sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, sometimes it's non-existent.
All right. And let's go into how does Danielle speak to you and treat you?
Depends on the moment. If it's a good conversation, then fairly decent. When we're having a dispute about something, it tends not to go that well.
And what does not go that well look like?
I'm belittled. I am basically told what needs to happen versus what a compromise as to how it should go. At the point where it's nothing for me to say.
How often would you say that you and Ms. Newbern disagree like that?
When there's something that pops up, whether it be with school, anything that has something to do with Demetrius when it comes to trying to make a decision for all of us, haircuts even, it's all of it.
Now, what about haircuts? Haircuts even, I know that's not a huge issue, but what's going on with haircuts as an example?
Haircuts, it's for some reason it's always been something that me and Demetrius have done. When we use my barber, we've used a different barber, which is of some relation to Donnie and somehow. And the time constraints on the she wants us specifically to go to that barber. I don't have time to bend to his time frame.
And so have you and Danielle been able to agree regarding haircuts and the barber?
It's kind of been left up to me more recently.
Okay. And how do you speak to and treat Danielle?
I try to treat her with most respect as the mother of my son. You know, doesn't always go that way. I know I'm not the best at always getting my point across and trying not to deviate from that.
Okay. And do you belittle her during these conversations?
The only time I've said anything that would be considered belittling is when she doesn't step up as a mother. When I ask her to do something, or she says she's going to do something with Demetrius and says, tells him that she's going to do it and then fails in doing that aspect.
Can you give us an example of something that she said she would do and then didn't do it? With a time frame, please.
Multiple times, but the one in specifically just last year for his birthday, he was told he was going to Disney World in Florida, and that did not happen.
Okay. And when this sort of thing happens, does Demetrius have a reaction? Again, we don't want to talk about what he says, but what have you observed?
He's upset by it. You know, you can't tell a child that you're going to do something, and then he's constantly asking why it didn't happen.
Okay. How long has communication between you and Donnie been this way?
Pretty much the entire time. It goes back and forth.
Has it increased in frequency or intensity at any point?
Yes.
When did that happen?
When she started keeping Demetrius from me.
And when did that start happening?
That started once we put him in summer school at the Montessori versus going to the daycare.
So summer of 2023? Or was it 2022?
That'd be 2023.
Okay. And so what changed at that time? How did it change?
It pretty much is, she told me it was her way or no way. She is the mother, she makes the rules. This is a mother state and this is how it's going to be.
You said this is a mother state and this is how it's going to be. Is that something that where did you get that?
That was words out of her mouth, via text rather.
Okay. And what ultimately made you decide to file something to initiate this court action?
It was because of that. It was because of that time when she started denying me seeing Demetrius every day like I was.
Okay. And after you opened the case, how did things change?
It pretty much stayed the same until we made we had the ex parte.
And is that regarding the after school issue?
Part of it, yes.
And what does good co-parenting look like for you for a joint legal custody, in your opinion?
In my opinion, there's no fighting. Mainly, you got to come to an agreement, some compromise on both parties. You can't just say this is the way it's going to be and you have nothing to say about it.
And do you try to follow that with Danielle?
I do.
How does that work out for you?
It doesn't.
Okay. I want to talk about a few specific instances. The October 15th, 2022 incident, we'll say. Do you remember that date?
I believe so, yeah.
If you looked at your
I'd have to
notes,
look at it.
if you looked at your notes to refresh your memory, would that help you?
Yes,
All right. Permission for my client to refresh his memory?
Yes, go ahead.
Did that refresh your memory?
yes.
What happened? Give us a general summary of what happened that day.
Demetrius, it was a soccer day that we had set up. He was supposed to have soccer that day, but the weather was pretty rough. Demetrius was already sick. and we didn't want him to be out in the weather. I had reached out to Donnie's mom to let her know that we were not going to be at the soccer game due to the weather.
All right. And why did you reach out to Donnie's mom and not Donnie?
The last I knew, Donnie was supposed to be at work that day
Okay. So why did you reach out to her mom?
because she was coming to all the games at the time.
Okay. And so did you hear back from her about the fact that he wasn't going to be at the soccer game?
It was just a simple okay.
Okay. And did Danielle try to get in touch with you that day?
She did.
How so?
She messaged my phone and I did not have it on me.
How long, I'm going to say, how long were you approximately without your phone at that time?
Maybe a half hour.
Okay. And during that half hour, what did you find on your phone?
Excessive text messages, voicemails, missed calls,
When you say excessive text messages, what does that look like or mean?
and more than 10.
Okay. And what were the context of the messages? What was the tone of the messages?
How I needed to answer my phone, where was her son at, so on and so forth.
And she said, where is her son at?
Yes.
Does Donnie ever say, where's our son?
No.
Did she leave you any voicemail messages during that time frame?
Yes.
How many did she leave?
3 or 4.
Okay. What did she sound like during those messages?
Very upset, very threatening, and in her responses to me not answering the phone promptly.
Okay. Do you remember what she said during those messages?
That I needed to answer.
I'm gonna object. I object. This is hearsay.
It's admission by a party opponent, Your Honor.
Yeah, Ms. Ives, it's your client
No,
talking.
you're
So
right. I'm sorry. Thank you, Your Honor.
okay.
Objection removed.
What do you remember Ms. Newbern saying in those messages?
I needed to answer my phone or my door was going to get kicked in.
Did she say she was going to kick in, or what do you mean by kicked in?
She would kick my door down.
Okay. And did you get in touch with Danielle when you saw these missed calls and messages?
I did.
How did that go?
It didn't. I was being yelled at the entire time because I didn't answer my phone promptly.
Okay. Did she ever calm down during that phone call?
Eventually towards the end, yes.
Okay. What did you tell her about what had happened?
That it was a mistake on my part. I left my phone in the car. And once I realized that I had done that, I went to retrieve it. And that in no way, shape, or form that Demetrius is any harm.
Why did she think that the lack of response? Well, let me withdraw that because you may not know. Did she say anything to you about why the lack of response in that 30 minutes was so concerning for her?
Just that she believes something had happened.
Did she give you any reason why something might have happened during that 30 minutes?
No, just because of me not answering the phone promptly.
Do you remember how all of that resolved or ended? It's okay if you don't remember. You can just say, I don't know.
Pretty much, I told her what she wanted to hear, just to calm her down because there's no need for the explosiveness of the situation over not answering the phone for 30 minutes.
Okay. Now I'm going to ask about an incident that happened just 2 days later on October 17th, 2022. Do you remember that?
I believe so, yeah.
What happened that day?
She had a deer.
I didn't.
You want to take a look at your notes to,
Would you repeat that again, sir?
It's the 19th, I'm sorry. The 17th.
Repeat what you said, sir.
I'm sorry?
It was a little quiet. Repeat what you said of what happened on 10/17/22.
I had to revert back. My mistake. I thought it was the 19th. The 19th was when she hit the deer.
Not the 17th?
correct.
Okay.
So I asked him to refresh his memory as to what happened on the 17th. Was that a day that you were supposed to have Demetrius after school or daycare?
I did have him after school.
Was that a day that you were going to have an overnight with him?
No.
Was that a day that Danielle was going to have an overnight with him?
Yes.
Okay. And what did that exchange happen so that Danielle could have her overnight?
Yes.
Okay. What happened?
She asked me to drop him off at a hotel.
Okay. And how did that conversation progress?
I asked if there was anything that I need to know about. I was proceeded to be told it was none of my business. I persisted and said if there's something if I need to watch Demetrius or whatever the case may be, that I'm available to do so. After an extensive conversation, she finally broke down and told me the reason why she was at the hotel.
What was the reason that she gave you at that time?
Fleas.
Fleas at her place?
Yes.
Okay. And so was it typical for Ms. Newbern to stay at a hotel on a weeknight?
No.
Had you ever dropped Demetrius off to a hotel in a weeknight like that before?
No.
When you offered to let Demetrius stay with you, what was her response?
She needed her time with her son. She was on the edge,
What do you mean she's on the edge?
on the edge of giving up,
And how did you know that that's what she meant?
because that's what she said.
Okay. And did she seem to calm down or get in a better frame of mind?
To my knowledge,
Did you end up taking Demetrius to the hotel to stay with her at that night, or did you keep him?
he was already with her at that time.
Oh, okay. So he was already with her at that point?
Yes,
Okay. And so you did drop him off at the hotel?
yes.
Okay. And then 2 days later, on October 19th, what happened on that day?
That was the day she hit the deer.
Okay. And who did she reach out to you about hitting the deer?
She did not.
Who reached out to you?
Her mom.
Okay. What did, without saying what her mom said, were you supposed to do something in response to that call?
It was implied that I was expected to do something,
What were you expected to do?
help her with her situation,
Okay. And by helper, you mean?
go pick her up and figure out something for her vehicle to get home.
Okay. And what time of day or night was this?
It was later in the evening,
Do you approximately remember when?
8:30ish, 9 o'clock.
All right. And were you able, at that time, did you decide to go pick up Ms. Newbern?
I did not.
And why not?
I wasn't available to do so.
And why weren't you available to do
I
so?
was making sure that the kids were in bed already. I was not going to get the kids out of bed.
And you couldn't have left the children home?
No.
Okay. There was no one at home to be able to watch them?
Yes, there was.
Who was there to watch them?
Alicia was.
Okay. So who called you? Did Ms. Newbern call you at that point?
No, I had another phone call from her uncle.
Okay. Was it a similar request?
Yes.
How far away was the trip for you to have gone and picked up Ms. Newbern at that time?
About 45 minutes.
So she was 45 minutes away from you?
Yeah.
How did you end up trying to assist her in that time?
I got a hold of a friend of mine to go pick her up.
Okay. And which friend was this?
That was Zach.
All right. That was Zach Ottinger who testified last time?
That is correct.
Okay. And this was just 4 days after the interaction when she threatened to kick in your door?
Yes.
And obviously, we heard the testimony of Mr. Ottinger about how that resolved. What about jumping ahead to December 19th of 2022? Do you remember anything going on around that time about Christmas plans?
Okay. There was discussion about picking up Demetrius on Christmas Day at 11:30 in the morning.
Okay. What was the conversation or the plan?
We had plans already. I told her that that was too early for him to be picked up.
Okay. So she wanted to pick him up at what time?
11:30.
And what time would you normally have done the exchange?
It would have been later on in the afternoon, 4 or 5 o'clock.
Okay.
Would have been normal time.
And she wanted to pick up at 11:30. What time did you offer?
I believe I said 2.
Okay. Who had Christmas the year prior?
She did.
So in 2021, she had Christmas?
Yes.
And even though, so there's no actual holiday parenting time schedule, but did you believe that you had Christmas that year?
I believe it should have been, yes.
Okay. And why was the 2 o'clock time frame the earliest that you could make work?
It was my mistake. It was like, I want to say I said 1:30, not 2 o'clock. It was about the time she showed up. It was 1:45, almost 2 o'clock by the time she showed up, after we had extensive conversations about what time he was going to be picked up.
Okay, so on the 19th, you discussed the pickup time, and what time was agreed upon to your knowledge or memory?
There was nothing agreed upon at that time.
Okay, so Christmas Day comes. What happens on Christmas Day?
I received a message early in the morning stating that she would be there at 11:30 to pick him up.
Okay, and what time did you two ultimately agree on at that point?
I believe I said 1:30,
Okay, and what time did Danielle actually pick up Demetrius that day?
about 1:45.
And did she provide you any notice that she was running late that day?
No.
Okay. I'm going to switch to talking about the schools. When were you informed about Dudley Elementary being the school Danielle chose?
That was very last minute, a week before I believe that he went to actually go to school at Dudley.
So a week before school started for the 2023 to 2024 school year?
Yes,
And were you informed at that time about the 21st Century program?
not at that time. I didn't find out about that until we went to the orientation.
Okay, so you went to the orientation at Dudley?
Yes,
Okay. Were you asked for your input by Ms. Newbern before either decision was made?
No.
Did you research the Dudley schools yourself?
I did, once I found out that that's where he was going.
Okay, where did you look for your research?
Just Googled it.
Okay, and did you compare Dudley at all to any other schools?
Not at that time.
Okay, at some point, did you compare Dudley to any of the other schools?
I did.
Okay, and based on just what you found online?
Yes.
Okay. What issues did you have face trying to communicate with Dudley?
Initially, what I found was that Dudley was one of the lowest ranked schools in Battle Creek at the time.
Nope, trying to communicate with Dudley. So what issues did you
I'm sorry.
find trying to communicate with Dudley? That's okay.
I didn't have any hard issues communicating with the office at Dudley. Miss Van Wormer was a little bit more difficult.
And Ms. Van Wormer was his teacher for this year?
Yes.
Okay. And what issues did you face trying to communicate with 21st Century?
Very. They any information that I asked for, they just kept referring me back to their mission statement. They could not give me any defined things of what they were doing.
No defined curriculum?
Correct.
And did you attend the parent-teacher conferences at Dudley?
I did.
Did Danielle?
Yes.
How did the conferences go?
Fairly smooth.
This year, while Demetrius has been in kindergarten, what time does his school get out at Dudley again?
Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, he gets out at 3:45,
And on Wednesdays?
3:00,
And what time does school get out at Montessori?
3:00
Every day?
every day.
Do you believe you would have these same communication problems if he was attending Montessori?
I don't believe so.
Do you believe that Danielle would be able to drop Demetrius off in the morning if he went to Montessori?
Absolutely.
Montessori has a early drop-off time available.
Yes, they do.
That was comparable to the program that he's able to go to in the morning at Dudley.
It's not the same. Their program is just is for people to be dropped or their children to be dropped off early for before school. The time that Donnie would be dropping him off would be right before school started, so there would be no conflict of no need for the early morning.
Okay. And pickups at the end of the day, how would that work?
You wait in line and they let your student out at 3:00.
Okay. And if Donnie was unable to pick him up at that time because of her work schedule, is that something you'd be able to facilitate?
Yes.
In doing a after school type care for him, kind of similar to what we have in our interim order, correct?
Yes.
That's something you would like to have the court continue?
Yes.
And did you receive a notification that Demetrius has been enrolled in first grade?
I have.
How did you get that?
I received a text message 3 or 4 weeks ago now that he was accepted at Fremont.
Okay. Was Fremont a school that has ever been disclosed to you?
It has. That was the initial school that he was supposed to go to before Dudley was even mentioned.
Did you try to bring this up with Ms. Newbern?
I have not said anything about this yet.
Okay. Do you know, has she reached out to you to explain at all why she enrolled in Fremont?
No.
She didn't give any reason why he wasn't enrolled in Dudley?
She has previously given me information of why she wanted him at Fremont, but not, as for leaving Dudley, no.
What was the reason she gave originally for wanting Fremont?
That's where she went to school at as a child.
If Fremont were the school that Ms. Newbern indicates that she wants him to go to, would you agree with Demetrius attending Fremont?
Repeat that, please.
If Ms. Newbern says, I actually want Demetrius to attend Fremont and not Dudley, what are your opinions about Demetrius attending Fremont?
It's very confrontational. I have no information whatsoever when it comes to Fremont on what time school starts, what time it ends, what are their requirements. I'd have no way to get them there.
Okay. Why do you support Demetrius attending Battle Creek Montessori instead?
It's beneficial to everybody. It's centrally located. It's really close to his mom's house. And the times work for everybody.
Okay. Have you, has Ms. Newbern ever asked you questions about Montessori?
Not since daycare,
Okay. So regarding kindergarten or first grade, she hasn't asked any questions?
none whatsoever.
Okay. Has she ever asked you for information about Battle Creek Montessori?
That was all before he started going to school there over the school year.
Okay. So not since starting kindergarten?
No,
Okay. When you looked up these various schools online, did what you find influence your opinion about where Demetrius should go?
absolutely.
Okay. Have you had any reports of behavioral issues with Demetrius at Montessori?
None at Montessori.
Has he been hitting his milestones and goals to your knowledge?
Yes,
Did you attend the parent-teacher conferences at Battle Creek Montessori?
I did
And how did those go?
very well. They explained as Demetrius as a very bright student.
Did Danielle go?
To the most recent one, yes.
Did she go to the one before that?
No,
How did that parent-teacher conference go that she attended?
it went fairly well, I believe.
And just want to make sure I hit all of these points. So when you were trying to bring up the issue of the injuries that you were noticing to Ms. Newbern, what was the reason for bringing that to our attention? How were you doing that?
The reason why that was being brought up was because I was being accused of those issues happening with me.
Okay, who was accusing you?
Donnie was.
Okay, and so was Ms. Potter there every day that you or Alicia was there to pick up Demetrius?
No,
How often would you say she was there?
probably a handful of times maybe. And usually we've seen her in passing. There wasn't very often that she was actually in the area.
So did you remember her testimony that she would see you often looking for injuries on Demetrius?
Correct.
So if you didn't see her at those pickups, how would she have been able to see you doing any of those checks?
I would say no.
How often would you say you actually did those checks? Was it every time?
You can see on his face, on his arms, those are visual. There was never a time when I lifted up his shirt or unless Demetrius did that himself.
Okay, so you didn't make Demetrius like strip down or show
Absolutely
injuries
not.
at the school?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Has there ever been a time that you've not been able to provide Demetrius food?
No.
What about clothing?
No.
Has Danielle ever asked you to contribute to clothing costs?
She has.
Have you contributed?
I have.
What have you contributed towards?
When he first started their program at Bright Light for schooling, I bought a bunch of clothes for him for that.
Okay. Have you recently?
I have my own, yes.
Okay. Do you have any physical ailments or diagnosis?
I do not.
All right. Do you have any mental health conditions or diagnosis?
I do not.
Are you taking any sort of medications that are prescribed by your doctor, which would impact your ability to parent?
I do not.
Do you believe that Danielle has made attempts to work around the current orders of the court?
To my knowledge, yes.
Why do you think that?
It's a platform, let me say, if that's for lack of a better term, purposely changing hours, telling me that I'm only needed in certain times. Whereas before I would get a screenshot of her work schedule, which I'm now currently receiving again. But this was also due to a job change as well.
Did you ask her where she's working?
I did.
And did she tell you?
Yes.
What did she tell you the places that she was working?
Vegas, which is well known. The second time she was initially working at the Dude, and then she went to another dispensary, and that was all I was told on that aspect. And now she is back at the Dude.
So do you know what her current schedule is at the Dude?
It varies.
You said at one point she stopped sending you her schedule. When did that change?
When Demetrius started going to summer school at the Montessori.
Okay. Are you Facebook friends with Danielle?
I am.
Do you ever look at her page?
It pops up,
Do you ever see a post with your name in it?
not specifically.
Do you ever see posts that you believe might be related to you?
Oh, yes, most definitely.
How do those posts make you feel?
It's bashing. Doesn't, I don't really care for it one way or another.
And is this Ms. Newburn's Facebook page?
Yes,
To your knowledge, does anybody else post on that page?
not to my knowledge.
Again, without going into details, what's the general tone of these posts?
It's father bashing, baby daddy bashing, some random things about like mental health, current states of mind, those things.
Do you think she talks like this in front of Demetrius?
I believe it's possible.
Okay. But you don't know for sure, do you?
I can't say that for sure or not.
Okay. Do you think that this continued interaction and viewpoint of view will continue by Ms. Newbern if the court doesn't make it clear that this is, not appropriate?
I believe it's possible.
Okay. Has Demetrius ever been exposed to Danielle behaving aggressively or violently?
Yes.
When and what happened?
Oh, that's when I was with a previous girlfriend.
Do you have an approximate year or month for this?
That would have been 2022.
Do you know a
No,
month?
I'm sorry, 2021.
Okay, so 2021. And what month roughly are we talking?
June or July, maybe into May, somewhere in there.
So May to July timeframe, what happened?
My current girlfriend at the time was said something to Donnie about her mothering techniques, and Donnie proceeded to try and rip Demetrius from her arms.
Okay. And what did you do when you saw that?
I interceded myself. I took Demetrius, as I don't condone that type of activity in front of him.
Okay. When you had Demetrius, then where did you leave? What happened?
I walked away and I told them that they needed to calm down.
Okay. And do you remember how that incident resolved?
With Donnie storming off and leaving.
Okay. Does Demetrius have any special needs or circumstances?
Nothing known as of yet. He is a very active child. There's a possibility that he may have ADHD, but that is yet to be diagnosed.
Is that something that you and Donnie have tried to talk about before?
We've had conversations about it, yes.
Based on your conversations, is she for or against pursuing ADHD testing?
Yes, for it.
Okay. And so to the best of your knowledge, she would be agreeable to following up with the appropriate medical care providers regarding the ADHD?
I would say so, yes.
Okay. Does Demetrius have any learning disabilities or needs?
Not necessarily. Well, again, he's very active, so he's kind of all over the place. Has a squirrel moment, as some people like to refer to. If it don't have his attention, it's not going to have his attention. He'll find himself doing something else.
Okay. Do you believe that Demetrius would be abused or neglected while in Danielle's care?
I can't say that.
Okay. Are you concerned about who watches Demetrius when he's in her care?
I do.
Who do you have concerns about and why?
I would say her elderly grandmother, which is Demetrius's great grandmother. She is bedridden. She's not able to take care of him as needed.
So in 2022, when Danielle threatened to kick in your door, were you afraid that she actually would do that?
There was a possibility that she would do it, yes.
Were you aware of whether she took any steps to do that?
I do not.
Okay. And how far apart do you and Donnie live from each other?
I think like 8 miles, 9 miles, something like that.
Okay. So would that be approximately 10 minutes?
Give or take 10, 15 minutes, lights and traffic.
Okay. And how far from Battle Creek Montessori do you live?
About 8 minutes, 10 minutes, depending.
And how far from Battle Creek Montessori does Donnie live?
About 2 minutes.
And how far from Fremont do you live?
15.
How far from Fremont does Donnie live?
Probably like 10.
And how far from Dudley do you live?
Oh, I'm sorry, you said Fremont?
Yep, so the first one
Fremont.
was Battle Creek, Montessori,
Uh-huh.
then Fremont. How far from Fremont do you live?
That'd be about 25 minutes.
Okay, and how far from Fremont does Donnie live?
Probably about 15.
And then from Dudley, how far from Dudley do you live?
15,
And how far from Dudley does Donnie live?
about 10.
Okay. Are you asking the court for specific orders regarding parenting time?
Yes.
Have you ever failed to take your parenting time?
No.
Have you ever had extra parenting time because Donnie needed assistance or flexibility?
I
How often would you say that happened?
For a while it was pretty consistent. Sundays and Wednesday nights. That was while Demetrius was through daycare. More so every now and then it's become a random thing.
Okay. Were you willing to provide the flexibility for Donnie as needed?
Yes.
Did she provide you with the reciprocal type of consideration and flexibility?
Very limited.
How so?
It's not too often that I have to make an arrangement, and if something was to change or if I'm out and about, she wants to be very specific about drop-off times. It's when it's convenient.
Okay. Have you ever threatened to keep Demetrius from Danielle?
I have not.
Has she ever threatened to keep Demetrius from you?
Yes.
When did that happen?
I'd have to look specifically.
Do you have those notes in front of you or anything in front of you that would help you refresh your memory?
It would take me a minute to find it, yes.
Permission for my client to take a look?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. And so what's one example and a time frame of when she either threatened to keep Demetrius from you or actually did?
Right after he started going to summer school at the Montessori.
So like, what was that, June or July of 2022?
That would be June of, that'd be 2023.
Excuse me, 2023. Okay. So what happened this past summer then?
Once she realized that he was going to the Montessori for summer school, she neglected to even inform me of what was going on with Demetrius. When she took him, I was told I was not needed to have him, that I would have him on Thursday.
And is that when you were told that you were, the time that you had with him was stopping?
Yes.
Okay. And that at that point, we did not have an actual order in place yet, did we?
No, that was the whole reason why we're here now.
Okay. And is there any other examples of when she kept Demetrius from you or threatened to?
Yes.
When was that?
Earlier in the year. Anytime that Donnie did not get her way, that was when she started denying me my time.
And so you were actually denied time?
Yes.
And when you said anytime not getting her way, what do you mean?
When I wouldn't give her what she wanted, whatever the case may be. Christmas of 2022, there was an issue, and then she started keeping them from me after Christmas. That lasted for about a week and a half. I got them back, and then it pretty much went back to normal. And then in February, it happened again.
That was February of 2023?
Yes.
Okay. So we've got Christmas of 2022, February 2023, and June, July, sometime of 2023?
Yes.
Okay. And we heard some testimony from Ms. Van Warmer about the shark necklace. What's your opinion on the shark necklace?
I believe that was a distraction more than anything else. There was nothing put into stone that he has an issue. Really, the only thing it is a distraction.
So he's not been diagnosed with ADD or ADHD yet?
Not yet.
Okay. And did you give him the shark necklace?
I did not.
Did you know if Donnie did?
Yes, she did.
Okay. Have you tried to talk with Donnie about your feelings on the shark necklace?
I have.
Do you remember approximately when you tried to talk with her about that?
I'd have to look that up to be specific.
If you could review, I'm going to keep asking you questions, but if you could review your notes while I'm asking you questions for that date, I would appreciate that. We heard some testimony that there was a graduation ceremony in summer of 2022 and that was missed. Was that true?
There was no graduation or anything in 2022.
Okay, not from
That would be
the
2023. There was a graduation from the Bright Light program.
okay. So the 2023 graduation ceremony, did you guys attend that?
Yes.
Did Demetrius attend?
Yes, he did.
So testimony by, I believe it was Ms. Potter, indicating that you and Demetrius and Alicia weren't there. Is it not true?
That is correct.
Okay. Do you have, did you take pictures that day?
I have video and pictures.
Okay. Have you been able to find that date yet?
I'm still working on that.
That's okay. I'll keep going. We indicated that there was high conflict between yourself and the daycare provider. But she considered it a high conflict case between herself and you and Alicia. What was your perspective of that relationship or any conflict?
I don't believe that there was. It was made known that they treated me differently, due to what was going on. I don't understand why they were doing that. We had never had anything issues other than a paper being signed.
Okay. Okay. So when was that conversation that you had with her about the shark necklace?
It'll be in the end of October.
Of 2023?
Yes.
And how did that conversation go? What did you say? What did she say?
Basically, it was too early to have him try things that could possibly hurt him, and especially with his teeth. He didn't need something to chew on with his teeth in the state that they are.
Okay. What was her response?
That she's a mother. She's going to do what she wants.
Okay. Who's the primary person who does the communication regarding Demetrius to Donnie or her mom?
I am.
Okay. Does Alicia get involved in that communication?
Not anymore.
Okay. How often was she involved prior?
Very rarely.
And when did she stop being involved in that?
Per the request of last week.
Okay. And do you know whether or not Alicia ever instigated or initiated those conversations with Donnie or her mom?
No, it was only when they reached out to her. There was no specific conversation between them otherwise.
Okay. I have no further questions then for this witness. Thank you.
Ms. Ives, cross-examination.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. Regarding this shark necklace, Demetrius doesn't even wear this shark necklace anymore, does he not?
No, he does not.
Okay, and I understand that once the school had indicated that Demetrius was being distracted by it, he no longer wears it, correct?
He had it a few times while that was going on, yes.
Okay, but you understand that he's not wearing it any longer?
He doesn't have it now, no.
Okay, and with regards to, let's kind of start at the beginning here. When you and Miss Newburn, you first met Miss Newburn when she was working at the Vegas Strip, correct?
Yes.
And you guys, it's fair to say that you guys first met, you dated and you moved in together almost immediately after, correct?
It was fairly quickly, yes.
Okay, and you've been through a lot together because originally you guys had a child and you lost the first baby, correct?
Yes.
And would you agree that the two of you, you broke up, but then you got back together early on? And I'm talking 2017 when you lost your first child.
That was, she broke up with me before that happened.
Okay. But there was a small separation and you guys reconnected and got back together at the time you lost your first child, correct?
Oh, we were together before we lost our child.
Okay. I understand that, but you guys also had a short separation about that time.
We've established that twice.
Okay. And then I just want you to, is that, yes, you guys did separate for a short bit.
I feel like I'm a broken record at the moment. I'm sorry. I feel like I just repeated myself
Okay,
again.
just yes or no. It's just yes or no, sir.
Yes.
Just yes or no.
Yes.
Ms. Ives, he stated yes multiple times. What do you want?
Why are you arguing with my client?
Okay. So when you guys got back together, Danielle found out she was pregnant, and that would have been in 2017, correct?
I don't believe
She
that
became
was
pregnant again in
2017.
2017.
I don't believe it was 2017. Yeah, yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Okay. And then Demetrius was born in 2018, correct?
Correct.
And at that time, you guys were living together.
Correct.
And at that time, you guys got along fairly well and made most decisions together and co-parented very well together, correct?
Excuse me, are you asking me or are you telling me?
I'm asking you, is that it's a yes or no? At that time, you guys got along fairly well and co-parented together, correct?
Yes,
When you were living together.
yes,
Okay. And then, at that time also, Danielle had taken about 6 months of leave from work, correct?
that was longer than that
Okay. And how long do you think she was off work?
for quite some time.
Like, over a year, less than a year?
I was somewhere close to it.
Okay. And at that point, Demetrius was being breastfed daily, correct?
Yeah,
Okay. And, um, and for the most part, Miss Newburn at that point was pretty much a stay-at-home mom with Demetrius every day, correct?
correct.
Now, Demetrius's pediatrician when he was first born was Dr. Metler, correct?
I believe so, yeah.
And you actually went to the initial vaccination and the first wellness check with Miss Newburn and Demetrius right after he was born, correct?
Yes,
And then from there on, Demetrius has continued to see Dr. Metler pretty much for the most part over the last, I don't know, early years of his childhood, like maybe up to his 4 or 5 years old.
I would say no, not till 4 or 5.
Okay, and that's because at some point you changed his pediatrician to City Wellness Center, correct?
Correct.
And before you did that, did you notify Danielle that you were going to change his pediatrician?
I did.
And at that time, she didn't agree with changing his pediatrician, did she?
It was upon her request when we asked in the first place.
Okay, ultimately, when you changed the pediatrician, did you have his records sent to the new pediatrician from Dr. Metler's office?
Yes,
And if Danielle did not agree to change that doctor to the doctor, I'm sorry, let me change the question. What was Danielle's response when you told her that you wanted to change Demetrius's pediatrician?
she had changed her mind.
She wanted to keep Demetrius with the childhood pediatrician, that being Dr. Metler, correct?
No, she had expressed changing to a totally different doctor.
Why do you believe Demetrius's pediatrician need to change from Dr. Metler to City Serial or Serial City
I
Wellness?
believe that
I just wanted you to let her finish the question, but I know there's some delay.
I believe that there was some conflicts with Grace Health with the way they do things. That was the main reason why it was being changed.
Now, this was just a recent change to Grace Health in perhaps the summer of 2023. Would you agree with that?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Would you agree that Demetrius's pediatrician was changed to Serial City Wellness in the summer of 2023?
Yes,
And prior to that, he had always seen Dr. Metler at Grace Health.
I know in the few times that I was there, when I took him specifically by myself, I did not always see Dr. Metler.
Okay, but it was Dr. Metler's office that he had been going to previously.
Correct.
And there was a number of times that Miss Newborn took Demetrius to his well child checks that you couldn't make it due to work, correct?
Very few times.
But there were times that she took Demetrius to the well child checks because you were unavailable, correct?
Correct.
Now I understand that you're in a relationship with Miss Alicia Skurlock now,
Yes.
and you started dating her in about January of 2023.
No. That's
Okay,
correct.
when did you start? Oh, when did you start dating her?
In 2022.
Okay, and you moved in with her when?
That would be July of 2022.
Okay, and you lived with her consistently since July of 2022?
That is correct.
And Miss Gerlach has one child named Coralina, correct?
Yes.
And Coralina actually attends the pediatrician at Serious City Wellness as well, correct?
Well, yes,
And isn't it true the reason why you changed Demetrius's pediatrician to Serial City Wellness is because your girlfriend's daughter goes there?
that is incorrect.
Okay, what would be the reason then?
Is mainly due to the fact that we can get him in right now versus having to be on a waiting list to get him into Grace Health. Anytime I call Serial City, I can get him into an appointment, either, if not today, tomorrow.
Now, at one point when Demetrius was at Bright Lights Learning, there was a time when Danielle thought that Demetrius needed glasses. Do you recall that?
It was mentioned.
Okay, and because Demetrius was getting all of these bruises and bumps, it was relayed to her that he might not be able to see where he's going, correct?
I was never informed of that.
Okay, but he was appearing with these random bruisings, correct?
Yes,
And when Danielle tried to talk to you about this, you didn't believe that Demetrius needed to see an eye doctor, did you?
he didn't give me no indication that he needed to see an eye doctor.
And Danielle actually took it upon herself to make an eye doctor appointment initially, correct?
Yes,
But you didn't think he should see an eye doctor, right?
not at that time.
And then when she took Demetrius to the eye doctor, apparently she used an insurance card that she had or that you had given her to pay for that appointment.
I don't know that I gave her an insurance card.
Okay, you became upset that she actually used the insurance to pay for the eye doctor.
It was not passed along to me that it was happening. I was told after the fact.
Okay, but she did tell you she was going to make an eye doctor appointment for him, correct?
No, absolutely not. I was talked to about 3 months beforehand that
But she
maybe
told
we
you
should
he
get him
didn't
into
need
the
to see an eye
doctor.
doctor.
I'm sorry?
She did tell you he needed to see an eye doctor, correct?
That we needed to look into getting him to the eye doctor.
Okay. And ultimately, it turned out that he does need prescription glasses, correct?
That's correct.
And then at some point, I believe you went and got a second opinion on his vision.
I did.
And Danielle did not object to you getting a second opinion on that, did she?
No,
And when you got the second opinion, it turned out that he needed an actually stronger prescription of glasses, correct?
he was complaining that his head was hurting. His glasses were too wide set on his eyes, according to the doctor that I took him to. That was a part of the reason why he was having focusing issues with his new glasses.
Okay. And this, did he actually get a new pair of glasses after that visit?
He did.
Okay. And then how come you never gave Danielle the information to the new eye doctor that you took him to?
That was never asked for.
Okay. So how come you never provided the information of the new eye doctor appointment?
I told her that he was going to see the eye doctor.
Do you believe your son now has the appropriate eyewear?
I do believe he does, yes.
Okay. And since he got the eyeglasses, there was kind of a correlation between the bruising and the bumps. They seem to have subsided, correct?
Oh, absolutely not. He's a very rough and tumble child. He's a boy. They do boy things. He still has bruises and bumps and scrapes.
Okay. This I want to go back in time to when you started at Bright Lights, just to give you a reference point. When Demetrius was put into school at Bright Lights. So at that point, Miss Newbern had started working a shift at the Dude, and you were also working full time at that time, correct?
That was not initially how that went. When Demetrius started,
It's a yes or no question. At the
she
time
wasn't
that you guys
working
started,
both jobs at that time.
the question is, she was working at the Dude and you were working as well, correct?
Not in the beginning.
You were not working?
I was working. If you'd let me
Okay.
finish the statement in the first place, you would have known.
It's just a yes or, I'm just asking yes or no. So if the answer is no, so you were not working, or she was working at the Dude, yes or no?
I was working.
She,
She was working.
she's asking about whether Ms. Newbern was working.
Maybe I should break it down. When you guys enrolled Demetrius at Bright Lights Learning Center, you were employed, correct?
When he started Bright Light Early Learning Center, I was working. She has not started the Dude yet.
Okay. At that time, you were working, and where were you working?
ASD.
Right, and you were working a day shift there, correct?
Give me 1 second, I can tell you.
What time frame are we
Ms.
looking at
Ives,
again?
is this relevant where they were working that many years ago?
Thank you.
You're right. I'll jump forward, Your Honor.
Okay, please do.
Just continuing with the Bright Lights. At that point, Danielle picked the daycare, correct?
Yes,
She actually invited you to the, when she was doing the walkthrough, she was on the phone with you, telling you about the positives and the pros and cons, correct?
I'd say, yeah, if it was a phone call.
You didn't actually go to the daycare to look yourself, correct?
I wasn't given the opportunity to do so.
Okay. I mean, so ultimately, you agreed that Bright Lights Learning Education Center would be appropriate for Demetrius to attend, correct?
At the time,
Okay. So that was something that the two of you could agree on.
the only reason that was agreed upon because that was what was the option. The other option was told it was not valuable. And Bright Light was the option that she was choosing.
All right. And you were aware that she had looked at other daycare centers as well, correct?
One other one, other than that, I believe.
All right. Now, initially, Danielle was the one who would typically drop Demetrius off at daycare, and then when you got out of work, you would pick him up, correct?
Yes,
And typically you would pick Demetrius up, even though daycare could go till late in the afternoon, you would usually pick him up earlier in the afternoon, correct?
correct.
And then moving forward, in about the summer of June of 2023, and we heard testimony earlier about the fact that you put Demetrius in a different daycare. What was the primary reason of putting Demetrius in a different daycare?
I was still going off the same issues that we had with the daycare, and then he went to summer school. It was not a daycare.
Okay. So your position on Montessori was that it was intended to be a summer school program,
Yes,
but it also provided opportunity for Demetrius to have care while you were at work during your time with him, correct?
correct.
And then I understand Danielle did do a walkthrough at Montessori school with you, correct?
Yes,
And she told you that she didn't really care for the Montessori school, correct?
she did not say that.
But she objected to him going to the Montessori school program, correct?
There was no objection at the time. It was a conflict of being able to pay for it.
Okay. Was there a cost to it?
For the pre-K, yes. When we initially went for the tour, that's because we were going to switch him.
Okay, how much was the Montessori school?
Like $525, I believe, a month.
Okay. Now, at that time, you and Miss Newborn then agreed that for summer, Demetrius would stay at Bright Lights during her time, or at least that's what she wanted, and that during your time, you chose to put Demetrius in the Montessori summer school, correct?
I'm sorry, restate that.
So you then agreed that Demetrius would maintain the daycare that Miss Newborn had set up at Bright Lights, but during your time, you were going to enroll him in summer school at the Montessori school during your time, correct?
It was never agreed upon that he stayed at Bright Light. It was inevitable that he was leaving.
All right. And that's because school was going to start in the fall, correct?
Absolutely.
Um, but for the summer school program, is it, I mean, I just want to understand if I got this correct, that you both agreed that during her time, she would maintain Demetrius in the Bright Lights Learning Center for the summer school, and that you would maintain Montessori during your time, correct?
It was not agreed upon, no.
Okay, so basically you just each did what you wanted during your time, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so you didn't agree to Demetrius staying at Bright Lights Learning, and she didn't agree to him going to Montessori. Would that be safe to say?
Yes.
And then when the fall came around, she had indicated that she had started or enrolled him at Dudley, correct?
I just got notice that there's a notice coming on over the PA system here that a drill is about to happen. I'm assuming it's some sort of tornado or fire drill. They did not indicate.
Attention to the courthouse. This is a drill. Attention to the courthouse. We're going to be running a drill.
I'd like to continue until they tell us we absolutely have to leave the building for a drill.
Yep, that's fine.
Thank you.
Okay.
Attention. Attention.
I'm going to mute so you don't hear the attention.
Okay. I feel like I want to ask my next question, but I want Mr. Ward to be able to hear it without a microphone in his ear. So maybe we should just give it like a minute or two.
Yep,
Attention.
he can hear without being able to respond, then she'll unmute him. He can respond, Ms. Ives. Go ahead.
All right. When Miss Newborn enrolled Demetrius in Dudley, were you aware at all of the Bearcat Advantage program for college tuition?
It's not specifically the Bearcat Advantage. The program runs all through Battle Creek. It is also running through Kalamazoo.
But this specific program, are you aware, do you know about it?
I've heard of it, yes.
Okay, are you aware that it will allow Demetrius to have 100% of his college tuition paid if he remains in the Battle Creek school system?
For HBCU, yes.
I'm sorry, for what?
For an HBCU.
Okay. I don't know what each.
Clarify that, Mr.
So for the
Okay.
Bearcat Advantage, I'm sorry, it is specifically geared towards HBCUs. You can go to any HBCU across the nation, whereas in some of the other part of the other program only allows them to go to certain schools in Michigan.
And in order to get 100% of the college tuition, you would have to attend the public schools starting at the grade of kindergarten, correct?
Correct.
Wouldn't you agree that this would be an advantage to your son to have 100% free college tuition as an option for him when he matriculates through the end of high school?
I would say to an extent, our son has more than just one advantage available to him.
And I understand that the Montessori school does not participate in that tuition program, correct?
This is correct.
You had talked about that there was this issue that happened back in October of I think it was October of 2022 when you said my client had created a scene in front of the minor child and your old girlfriend.
That was not in October.
I'm sorry, it was June of 2021.
Roughly, yeah.
And I understand that Miss Newborn didn't really, or what was your girlfriend's name at the time?
Autumn.
Autumn Barstow, is that correct?
Yes.
And I understand Miss Newborn took issue with Miss Barstow because she had found out that she had been showering with your son, correct?
She had showered, yes.
And that really made her very upset, and she confronted you about it, correct?
She did.
Okay. And you ultimately took care of that issue and made it clear that that would never happen again, correct?
Correct.
But don't you think that she was rather justified in being rather upset and about that issue when she confronted you about it?
No, I do not.
Okay. You don't think it's justified when her son has been showering with this other woman that she was justified in being upset about it?
She showered with him with a bathing suit on when he needed to have proper care. This is the reason why he was in the shower is because he was freaking out. He could not be in the shower by himself.
Back on October, when you indicated that she had sent you some extensive text, and I'm going back to your October 2022 comments, when you talked about Demetrius not going to soccer.
Okay.
So I want to go back to that testimony you gave. Now, you had indicated you had originally reached out to her grandmother, correct?
Yes.
But you never sent Miss Newborn a text or a phone call about that cancellation of
Asked and
that
answered,
soccer
Your
match.
Honor. This was asked during my direct of my client.
Okay.
Not only
Okay,
that, but I asked him why.
Ms. Ives, I don't want to get this redundant, so maybe you need to check your notes.
Ultimately, my client was, so my client sent you messages because she never heard from you, correct?
That would be after the fact.
What does that mean?
That was after everything had already passed. The game was at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Wasn't she upset because she didn't know where her son was and no one was contacting her?
It wouldn't have been an issue if she was at work like she was supposed to be as per her schedule that she had sent me.
Okay. I have no further questions. Well,
Okay.
hold on, let me ask my client. A question about the soccer. Hasn't my client told you that she would change her work schedule to never miss the soccer game?
This was conveyed, yes.
I have no further questions.
Ms. Storm, any redirect?
Just a few. You were asked that whether or not Ms. Newbern had said that she'd never miss a game. Didn't she miss a game though? Did she ever miss
Yes,
games?
yes,
Okay. So despite saying she'd never miss a game, that wasn't true.
correct.
Okay. Do you think that the school, the Bearcat Advantage, is something that should determine the outcome of where Demetrius goes to school?
I do not.
Why not?
Because, like I said before, he has multiple advantages to him.
What are his advantages?
My heritage alone can take care of that.
What is your heritage?
Native American.
Okay. And so he's eligible for benefits by being descendant of a Native American tribe?
Yes.
Which tribe?
To my knowledge is Cherokee, but I have to confirm that. I'm currently going through the process of trying to understand all of my heritage as we speak.
Okay. Regarding the October 2022, or excuse me, June 2021 incident with Autumn Barstow, did you agree that she would be taking any showers with Demetrius?
She would no longer do that.
Okay. And was that supervised at all whenever that had happened?
Yes.
And how old was Demetrius at that time?
3.
3 years old. Is 3 years old young enough to shower or bathe by himself?
Without
supervision, I should say?
Not without supervision. No.
Okay. And she asked whether mom was justified in being upset. What about to the extent that mom reacted that day?
I don't think that it needed that kind of reaction.
All right. And what was that reaction again?
Explosive.
Okay. And were the messages in October 2022 about the soccer, were the messages you received having to do with the fact that Ms. Newbern didn't get to see him at soccer?
No.
Did it have anything to do with soccer?
No.
It was just, what would you say they were about, or why, the purpose of them?
Why wasn't he there? Why wasn't she informed? I relied on her mother to convey that message to her.
Okay. And when did the shark necklace stop being stop being an issue or not going to school?
I would say it only lasted a couple of weeks.
Okay.
It wasn't very long.
Okay. And the change to Serial City, when you were talking about that change, was that because the two of you had agreed to change?
We had agreed to change his doctor due to the fact that he couldn't get him in a timely manner.
So there were scheduling issues with Dr. Metler's office?
Yes,
And at that time, Donnie agreed?
yes,
And did you tell her that you wanted to change to Serial City Wellness?
I did.
And you told her before you actually changed?
I did.
And at that time, she was on board with it?
She was not on board. She wanted somewhere else.
Okay, so she just was never on board with Serial City, but she was on board with the change.
Yes.
Okay. And you, did she give you any other doctors that she wanted looked at instead of Serial City?
Not at that time.
Okay, so she just wanted something else.
Yes.
Okay. And you said there were conflicts with Grace Health and how they do things. Can you expound upon what conflicts you're talking about?
Mainly when it comes to having an appointment set in a timely manner. Is if your child's sick, you want to get them in as quick as possible. They were not accommodating to that.
Okay. And you were asked how many times, or you were asked that whether or not you were unavailable for various appointments. How many were you unavailable for due to work, if you had to estimate?
Less than a handful, 3 or 4 maybe.
And that's during the course of Demetrius's, during this time frame that we were talking about, when he was at Grace Health?
I'm sorry. Well,
This is regarding the time frame that he was at Grace Health?
yes.
Okay. And the glasses issue, how long between having the issue of potentially needing glasses coming up and the appointment being made was there? What was the length of time in between that?
On her side or mine?
Both.
Initially, it was made mention in February. I want to say it was the 5th.
Of 2023?
Yes.
Okay.
And then I was notified that he's getting his glasses. Pretty much on his birthday is when he got his glasses.
And when is his birthday?
May.
Okay, so we're looking at almost 3 months in between that discussion and when he actually got the glasses?
Yep.
Did Ms. Newbern ever tell you that she had a concern that the glasses and bruising were related to each other?
Not once.
Okay. Did she tell you about the appointment for the glasses before she made it?
No.
Did she tell you about it after she made it?
Yes.
How long after?
That he was getting his glasses next week.
So was it after the appointment had already occurred?
Yes.
Okay, so it was after making the appointment and after the appointment occurred.
Yes.
Okay. And she was agreeable to you getting a second opinion regarding the glasses?
Yes.
And did you talk with her about getting that second opinion before you did it?
I did.
Okay. And when she asked what time or that you would normally pick up earlier in the day from bright lights. Why would you normally pick up earlier than what was allowed, or what time?
There was no set time for him to be picked up. I would just pick him up after I got out of work.
And what approximate time was that?
2 o'clock. And I get there probably 2:15.
Okay. And compare the cost from Battle Creek Montessori Daycare to the bright lights. It was $525 a month for Battle Creek Montessori. Was that a cost that you were willing to share with her?
I was.
And the other bright light daycare, that was over $200 a week?
Yes.
Okay. So it made more financial sense for him to go to Battle Creek technically for both of you?
Absolutely.
Okay. Did she give you any choice about Demetrius staying at Bright Lights during her time?
No.
Okay. Was that a discussion that was able to be had?
No.
When the two of you got back together that first time after your the first breakup back in 2017, was that after she realized she was pregnant with Demetrius?
That's when we got back together, yes.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry. It wasn't with Demetrius. It was with Dominic, her first child.
Her first child, excuse me. Okay. And what did it look like when she was a stay-at-home mom?
Very reclusive.
When you say reclusive, what do you mean? I need more details.
She stayed mainly in the bedroom.
Do you know why?
I can't say for sure why.
Okay. Did she ever tell you why?
No.
Okay. Did she take care of the cooking and the cleaning and all the household duties at that time?
No.
Well, I'm going to object because this is outside of the scope of my cross.
You asked about her being a stay-at-home mother. I'm asking about her being a stay-at-home mother.
Okay, if you think it's relevant, go ahead.
The division of duties during that time, how did that happen?
That didn't happen. It was me taking care of the house while working.
Okay. And did she pay for her half of the eye doctor appointment?
No,
Did you pay for it?
I did.
So you paid for the entirety of both appointments?
Insurance paid for the first one. I paid out of pocket for the second one.
Okay. And for the glasses and renewed prescription, the updated prescription, did you pay for that? Did she pay for that? Did insurance pay?
I paid for that. Insurance covered very minimal on the second set. I want to say it was like around $100 that the insurance covered on the second set.
Okay. That is all the questions I have. Thank you.
Ms. Ives, any recross?
Thank you. You never gave Ms. Newbern a bill or a statement showing the cost of the appointment, did you?
I sent her a screenshot of it
Okay, when did you do that?
right after I received it.
Okay, did she respond?
She did.
What was her response, if you recall?
Said it'd be a week or so that before she could pay that amount.
Okay, did she agree to pay all of it or part of it?
Half.
Did you ever give her a bill for the prescription of the eyeglasses?
That was all in the same bill.
No further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Ward, and Ms. Storm, next witness.
At this time, I'd call Ms. Newbern. Ms. Newbern, how old are you?
28.
And where are you employed?
Vegas Strip Gentlemen's Club as a DJ, and the dude abides in Coldwater.
And was there a time within the last calendar year or so that you were working somewhere other than the Vegas or DJ, the dude?
Yes, ma'am. I worked at Gatsby Cannabis for like a month or so.
Did you update Mr. Ward regarding this change in employment and hours?
I did tell him that I would be moving jobs and having a new schedule. Yes.
When did you tell him that?
Right around the time that I got hired. I want to say a week before I actually started.
And how long did you work at Gatsby Cannabis?
A month or so, maybe a month and a half.
And why did you only work there a month or a month and a half?
I did not get along with the way that they work.
Okay.
So if I can expand, I will.
Sure, sure.
I worked in the—
Hold on, Ms. Storm, why do we need an expansion of why she left? How is
Because,
that relevant?
because that played into the issue of the after-school parenting time, her change in her schedule, things of that nature, regarding the impact on the after-school parenting time and whether or not she was available and why.
The fact that she changed is, but not why she changed. So
It is when what we're alleging is that she was changing jobs because of the desire to change the parenting time.
okay, well, go ahead and ask it.
So the reason I left the dude is because I was having an issue with a coworker and I did not want to keep being around her. And then I went somewhere else, but because of the industry that I'm in, I like to help my customers. And where I was, I could not actually help my patients. It was basically fast paced, just give them their weed and get them out. It wasn't like helping with the medicinal part of it. And I didn't agree with that. So I went back to the dude.
Okay. Do you still have that coworker issue or did that get resolved?
It got resolved. They moved her to a different one of our locations.
Okay. And how many hours do you work each week and which days do you work?
It varies depending on what's necessary. I'm a shift lead, so I kind of move all over the place. If I need to cover someone, they'll ask me to. But I would say about 37 or so hours a week normally.
And is that at the dude?
Yes.
And at the strip, what are your hours and what you do there?
I am the DJ there and I work 5:45 to 5:45 to 3:30 a.m. on Thursdays and Fridays.
Okay. And do you have any flexibility in choosing your start and end times with work?
At the dude, I can kind of be flexible with my end times depending on what's going on and what day it is. Starting time, I cannot flex. When it comes to Vegas, it honestly depends on the day. So if there's an event, it's going to be a little bit harder to be flexible. But for the most part, because I've been there for so long, it's a little bit easier.
And what time do you have to be at work in the morning at the dude?
8:45.
And how far away is the dude from where you live?
45 minutes to an hour, depending on traffic.
Okay, and how far away? Well, I've already asked those questions. At this point, do you and Porter share responsibility for making the routine appointments for Demetrius's health, vision, and dental needs?
At the moment, he does them. He has the insurance for him, so I allow him to, or not allow, but I agree with him doing that because it is under his name.
Okay. And did you hear the testimony regarding the glasses issue?
Yes.
And did you agree to pay for half the cost of the glasses and second opinion appointment?
I did.
Okay. Have you paid that half?
I have not. I was not reminded, and I apologize. I really do have so many things going on that I did not remember.
Do you know why it took 3 months between when you and Porter first talked about the eyeglasses need, or excuse me, the eye doctor appointment need, and you scheduling and getting that appointment for his glasses the first time?
Grace Health had a very long waiting list. He was right on that. It takes a while to get them in. Dr. Dotson is helping all of the low-income families within Battle Creek, so his schedule is usually completely packed, and that was just the first available appointment they had.
Okay. And when Demetrius has health issues during your parenting time, do you tell Porter about them as they're happening?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And do you tell him that via text, phone call? How do you tell him?
Text message.
Okay. Have there been issues regarding insurance coverage for Demetrius?
Not that I'm aware of, since we had the one at Grace Health that he went up there to get the information to fix.
Okay. Do you know whether or not there's been issues with billing at any of the medical, dental, or vision providers for Demetrius?
Besides that one time, no, ma'am.
And the one time, are you talking about the Grace Health issue?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And is that something that is still pending, or is that resolved at this point?
As far as I know, it's resolved. I haven't gotten anything, but I can make a phone call.
Okay. And who lives in the household with you?
My grandmother, my cousin Trevor, and Demetrius, and my dog.
And how old is your grandma?
She is 86, I want to say. She'll be 87 this year.
Okay. How long have you lived in that household with them?
Since April of last year.
And where did you live before that?
About 5 minutes up the road.
And how long were you living at Foster Avenue?
About a year and a half, a little bit over that.
Okay. And were you living with someone at that point?
No, just me and Demetrius and my cat, my dog.
Okay. And before Foster, any other places that you lived at?
I lived with my grandmother for a little bit. Me and my best friend shared a room at the time at her house. And before that, we lived with Porter.
Okay. So it went from living with Porter to grandma for a bit to Foster to where you are now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And how many bedrooms are in your current residence?
3.
And what is the division of the bedrooms?
So my grandmother has her own room because she's got so much medical equipment. My cousin is upstairs, and then Demetrius and I have the other room split in half.
Does he have his own bed in that room?
Yes, ma'am.
Does he sleep in his own bed, or does he sleep with you?
He sleeps in his own bed until about 5:30 in the morning, when he likes to come and crawl into bed with me, but he did the same thing at Foster.
Okay. And you said your grandma's got a lot of medical equipment. What's going on with grandma?
She has oxygen, just low oxygen, I guess. And then she just has blood pressure stuff and like medication that's in cabinets that we keep locked. So we like to keep all of that in one spot. And then she's got a medical bed, so like it lifts.
Does she have anyone who comes in and cares for her?
Yeah, she's got a caretaker that comes. She's got one that comes from 7:30 or 8 o'clock until about 2 or 3. And then another one comes at like when that one leaves. And then there's one more at the end of the night.
Okay. And does your grandma provide any childcare for Demetrius at this point?
Occasionally. So there will be times where like, say I have to run to the store, but Demetrius doesn't want to go. If my cousin is upstairs, I'll leave him with my Nona because my cousin is there, her caretakers are there.
So the only time that you'll leave Demetrius with grandma is when cousin's also home?
Yes.
Does cousin know he's also supposed to kind of help keep an eye out for Demetrius?
Yes, ma'am. I text him or I knock on his door and he comes down.
Okay. And has there been a point, let's say within the last year or two, that your grandma's provided care for Demetrius on her own without cousin home?
Not that I'm aware of.
Would you agree that it would probably be dangerous for Demetrius to be home with just your grandma to care for him, given her health issues?
I would.
How would you describe the communication between you and Porter?
Rocky most of the time.
How does Porter speak to you or treat you in these conversations?
It feels like a condescension.
What makes you think that it's condescension or makes you feel that way?
Just the tone of the text messages themselves.
Would you agree that can sometimes be hard to understand or read tone in text messages?
100% agree.
Okay. And how do you speak to and treat Porter?
I attempt to speak as bland or blatantly as possible.
Does that always work or happen?
I wouldn't say it always works, but it does usually happen.
Is there a time when you start with an attempt to be bland and it changes?
Yes.
What happens when that changes? What does the change look like?
I don't think I understand the question.
Sure. So when you said that you try to start out at least being bland and straightforward, but you said that at a certain point that kind of changes. What does that change look like? What does the change, what changes?
It's more of a feeling, if that makes sense, where it feels like the tone that I have given is getting an attitude rather than being given the same courtesy, and there is an irritation.
Do you respond with irritation?
It seems snippy. Sorry.
I'm sorry, it was a delay on my end. Can you repeat that last bit you said?
I was just saying it kind of seems snippy.
Okay. And do you get snippy back with him?
Occasionally.
Do you
Well, I try very hard not to.
Do you call him names or belittle him in conversations over text or even when you're talking verbally?
I cannot recall calling him names or belittling, but I do tend to speak very matter-of-factly when I get irritated, which could be taken that way.
Did you tell Porter that this is a mother state and that you're gonna able to prevail because it's a mother state?
I did say it was a mother state, but I did not say that I don't recall saying that I would prevail. I just said we would see where the courts would go.
Why did you tell Porter it was a mother state?
If I'm not mistaken, we were in an argument about time, but I do not recall that entire conversation. There was something that was said to me.
Did you think it was appropriate to tell him it was a mother state?
After the fact, no, ma'am. During it, I did speak out of anger more than out of trying to solve the problem.
Okay. So what tends to happen with you when communication goes poorly between you and Porter?
I get more matter of fact than speaking like I'm actually trying to solve it. It's more of just, these are the facts. This is it. Or I just say, I'm done with this conversation.
Okay. And how long has it been this way between you and Porter?
About a year or so, a little bit over. We didn't used to have problems before this.
Okay. So it's increased in frequency or intensity since at a certain point?
It did.
Do you have if I asked you approximately when you believe the intensity or frequency changed, would you be able to tell me?
I couldn't tell you a specific date besides around like the summer of 2022. Sorry, it's no longer 2023.
That's okay. That's okay. I still get them mixed up myself. What do you think good co-parenting looks like for a joint legal custody in your view?
Doing everything as a unit. So decisions, bigger deals for him, even small things. Sometimes my family was one of those, like we did everything as one family and I want it to be the same.
Okay. How would you expect disagreements between you and Porter to resolve?
Honestly, I'd like to sit down and talk face to face rather than text messages because I feel like it goes better.
Okay. You think both parties would be able to stay calm if it's face to face?
I do.
Okay. And does good joint legal custody look like parties telling each other of appointments prior to appointments being made?
Yes, at least a week or so, 2 weeks ahead of time, just so that we can coordinate together.
Wouldn't it be best if you each just told each other basically, almost immediately after making the appointment, just saying, hey, I made an appointment?
I took your question as meaning before we made the appointment. I apologize.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. I probably confused myself and you with that question. I'll rephrase. So when it's a routine appointment that just has to be made in advance, is that something you two should be discussing in advance?
If it's a routine appointment, yes. Like, hey, don't forget his physical's coming up. It's this day, or we're thinking of making it this day so that, the communication is open.
Okay. And since my client's been the one making the appointments, the expectation, is it correct to say that the expectation would be once you guys said, hey, we're going to do an appointment, that he tell you when that appointment is?
Yes, ma'am.
Prior to the actual appointment, excuse me.
Yes, ma'am.
And same for you, that if you made an appointment for Demetrius, that you would need to tell him as you made the appointment / before as much in advance as possible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you think it also, how would you resolve some of these contentious issues? So I'm going to do a hypothetical. You think that an issue should be handled a certain way, but Porter thinks it should be handled a different way. How are we going to come to a resolution between the two of you?
Oh, sorry, your internet was saying unstable.
No, it's okay. Did you hear my question? I'm sorry. I know your internet was unstable. You might not have heard it.
I was going to say, could you repeat the second half? I heard the hypothetical part, but I didn't hear that after it.
My hypothetical question was just, how would you and Porter handle these types of disagreements in the future? How do you see those resolving other than just talking about it? How is it going to resolve if you see it one way and he sees it another?
I would say it depends on the issue. So something like the schools, I would say we look at what's best for him, for what he wants to do with himself. But something as small as like the sport that he would be in, we can ask him, go that way, or, each do our research, bring it to the table, see, if we can come to a conclusion. If not, circle back around to it later on.
Okay. And would you agree that perhaps following a joint legal custody arrangement has not been the smoothest so far for you and Porter?
I would agree.
Okay. But if the court did order joint legal custody, would you be willing to make changes in how you co-parent with him?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And obviously the reciprocal is you would expect him to make some changes and compromises as well?
Yes, ma'am.
But you would be willing to make compromises to try to address these issues?
Yes, ma'am.
And compromises haven't been able to be made so far, have they?
No, ma'am, they have not.
Okay. I'm going to talk about the October 15th, 2022 soccer game incident when Mr. Ward left his phone in the car. Do you admit or acknowledge that you sent him, we'll just say, several text messages and phone calls during that about 30-minute period?
It was longer than 30 minutes, but I will acknowledge that I did send text messages, and I called about, I want to say 15 to 18 times in total.
Okay. What made you worried that something was going on? What prompted you to think, oh my gosh, something's happening?
I still have moments where I remember that I lost a child, and when I can't find the other one, I get anxious. So not being able to find him for over an hour had me having a full-blown anxiety attack.
Even though he was with Porter?
Yes, but it's hard to explain. When you can't get a hold of like another piece of you, it's very like, are they okay? Are they like hurt? Is he not answering because something's wrong? Like, instead of just sending a text message of, hey, we're good, I don't have my phone. You know what I mean? It was literally just, I couldn't find him. I didn't know if anybody was okay. There was no communication to me of why he was not where he was supposed to be.
Isn't it true though that he sent you a message or called you or got in touch with you after he got his phone and saw that he had missed all those messages?
After his several text messages, yes, he did say this is where I was, but it wasn't just this is where I was. It was this is where I was, plus a paragraph of like being rude, in which case I apologized and I said like I was wrong, like I flipped out for these reasons, and I got more rude.
So your perspective and testimony is that you were calm and apologetic for your attempts to contact him and he was just rude?
No, I was after the fact. After I found out my son was okay and everything else, I said I shouldn't have said what I said. But, and then it turned into an even bigger argument because it was a back and forth. I felt like I was in the right. I was not, but.
Okay.
And then there was a discussion about it and I apologized.
Okay. Was there a reason why you didn't accept his explanation in the beginning regarding the fact that he had just left his phone in the car for maybe 30 minutes to an hour, maybe?
As long as I had known him, he always had his phone on him. So it was just, it was a little unbelievable to me at the time that he didn't have it or that neither one of them had their phones.
Okay. So 2 days later, we're now talking about October 17th with the hotel interaction. You had contacted Porter about changing the exchange location that day?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes, just for the record?
Oh, yes, sorry.
No, that's okay. I just want to make sure it's clear for the record. Did you ask him to take Demetrius to the hotel for you to drop off?
I did ask him to bring him to me at the hotel, yes.
Okay. And did you end up getting Demetrius at the hotel for you?
I did.
Okay. Did Porter give an offer to, is it true that Porter offered to let Demetrius stay with him since you were having issues at your house?
He did.
And that offer, why did you not accept that offer?
Because I wanted my time with my son. I thought it would be very good for me.
Okay.
Well, for both of us, but.
And it was a school night, right?
Yes.
Okay. And did you tell Porter that you needed to see Demetrius because you were seconds away from giving up on life?
I didn't say I was seconds away from giving up on life, but I did tell him that I needed to see him because it would help with my mental health, yes.
Okay. Did you think that you were in a stable mental place at that point to be able to care for Demetrius?
Yes.
Okay. Were there any other action or steps taken towards addressing your mental health that night?
I called my therapist, as I usually do anytime I start to have a stressful time.
Okay. Did that help?
It did.
Okay. And this was just 2 days after you had threatened to kick in Porter's door?
Yes.
Okay. And have you threatened to kick in Porter's door or similar type action before?
Not that I recall.
Okay. So then we're going on October 19th then with the deer incident. You hit a deer, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Well,
Was that, go ahead.
he hit me, but yeah.
The deer hit you and you were, I'm assuming that was on your way back from the dude?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What time of day or night was this?
I want to say like 9:30, 10 o'clock. We had just closed.
Okay. And did you call Porter directly yourself for a ride?
I did call him, but he did not answer.
Okay. Did you ask your family to get in touch with him to give you a ride?
I did not.
Okay. And Mr. Ottinger was able to come and pick you up, correct?
He did.
Okay. And this is someone that you had known before?
Yes.
Okay. How would you describe your emotional state at that point?
I was very upset. I had never hit anything before. I was having a bad day beforehand. It was very upset.
Okay. And how would you describe your mental state at that point?
Honestly, I don't know the proper words to describe it. I was just sad. I was kind of just feeling overwhelmed.
And I've hit a deer myself, so I know that feeling. Did you make any statements to Zach that night about wanting to end your life in after having to deal with all of this?
I told him I felt like walking into traffic.
Obviously, you did not do that, correct?
No, I sat in my car and talked to my mom until I was calm.
All right. And you got home safely at that point?
Yes.
All right. So then I want to skip to December 19th when you and Porter were talking about the Christmas of 2022. Did you guys talk about the Christmas Day exchange?
I believe we did.
Okay. And had you two discussed Christmas prior to December 19th?
We had had a couple of discussions, but there was nothing like super solid. He had sent a parenting time schedule.
Okay. And is it true that you had had Christmas for 2021?
We did that Christmas kind of together, but I guess technically you could say so because it was at my house.
Okay. And do you know what was the agreement supposed to be for Christmas of 2022?
He got him Christmas Eve and I got him Christmas Day, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. And did you guys talk about what the exchange time would be on Christmas Day?
We went back and forth on it a little bit. I want to say it was like we ended up on a midday, like 1:30 or 2 or something like that.
Okay. And do you remember asking for an earlier pickup time, like at 11 or 11:30?
I did.
Did you have plans or anything going on that was important for you to have that time frame?
Yes, my mothers, both my moms, both of them live in Detroit, and we were supposed to be going there for a family Christmas.
Okay. And
my mom's, my sister, my brother.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you. And then how did the exchange on December 25th actually play out?
I think I got there around 1:45 and we swapped. I picked him up and then we headed to Detroit.
All right. And did you provide Porter notice that you were running late that day?
I did. I always text if I'm going to be late.
Okay. I'm going to switch to schools now, specifically about Dudley. When did you tell Porter about Dudley?
I want to say as soon as I found out that Fremont's enrollment, we had missed the application, I did Dudley. So like a month or so before school started.
Okay. And did you tell Porter before or after you had chosen Dudley?
I told him that I thought Dudley was good. And when we were still going back and forth, I applied. So technically before.
So you started talking about it before, but before there was an agreement, you just enrolled him?
Or yeah, it was getting down to the wire where if he wasn't enrolled in anything at all, he was going to have an issue. So I just enrolled him.
Okay. When did you tell Porter about the 21st Century program?
I told Porter about 21st Century when I first said that I wanted him in Battle Creek Public Schools.
Do you know how you might have told him that?
We were talking and I was like, I went to this thing called 21st Century. It's super cool. My cousin's in it now. She's one of the directors for one of the other schools, da 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 da. And then
remember when you had that conversation?
Roughly. Whenever I first brought up Fremont. So I want to say, oh man, I'm really terrible at dates.
That's okay. An approximate is fine.
I was going to say that summer. So like sometime last summer after he graduated from Bright Lights.
Would approximately maybe end of July sound appropriate if it was about a month before school started?
It's about right.
Okay. And did you do any research to Dudley yourself before choosing Dudley?
I did.
And did you attend parent-teacher conferences at Dudley?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
And how did those go?
Great, actually. She always says how well he's doing.
Okay. Now, if I had a text message dated July 24th of 2023 of your conversation between Porter and you about Dudley, would that be approximately accurate?
I would have to check my own text messages.
Okay. And have you enrolled Demetrius in Fremont Elementary now?
He is not enrolled, but I did apply. There's a very small window for you to apply. It is a charter school, so in order for him to even be considered, he has to be in before a certain time.
Is that charter school eligible for the Bearcat Advantage,
Yes, ma'am, it is.
even though it's a private school and not part of the public school curriculum?
So that's where it slightly differs. It's a very odd thing, but it does still do the Bearcat Advantage. Yes, it's not necessarily a private, like you don't have to pay for it or anything.
Okay, so there's no tuition associated with Fremont?
No, ma'am.
Okay, is there bus that goes to and from Fremont from both of your houses?
Busing, I'm not entirely sure because I plan to always like drive him to school, and I'm willing to like go and pick him up and take him to school. I don't necessarily agree with the busing system.
Okay, so the plan would be wherever he goes to school, you guys would be doing the transportation yourselves? Is
Yes,
that a
ma'am.
yes? Okay, just for the record. Why is it that this is the first we're hearing about Fremont Elementary?
It is not the first. Like I stated previously, I said something last year. I even told him, well, last summer, I even told him that I missed the cutoff and that we would have to try again. But I've always stated that I would prefer him at Fremont because it has the best curriculum.
How come you didn't put it in any of your pleadings?
Because he is currently in Dudley and I didn't know that we were supposed to. I apologize.
So I guess I'm confused. Are you advocating for Dudley or Fremont now for Demetrius to attend?
I would prefer him at Fremont, but Dudley was where I chose in order to keep him in the Battle Creek public school system and within the Bearcat Advantage. But Fremont is where I would prefer for him to go.
Did you talk with with my client at all prior to applying to Fremont for the first grade?
For first grade, no, ma'am.
Okay. Did you ever even tell him about it?
I plan to talk to him, but I did not yet. No, ma'am.
So why would you say you're not in support of Montessori then?
I've done research as well as talked to multiple teachers that I know and just people who have gone to schools like the Montessori school, not necessarily Battle Creek Montessori, but there used to be one that when I was in Battle Creek schools, it was called Endeavor Academy. Same kind of curriculum, but they have trouble
Go ahead.
integrating. I'm sorry. They have trouble integrating into other schools. So once you go out of opt out of Montessori school and you have to go into public school and middle school, high school, it's problematic. They have issues with like getting along with the kids. There's bullying issues. There's issues with them not being able to do things on their own sometimes.
What is that based on though? Because are you looking at studies or is this just what you've heard from other people?
This was me talking to multiple teachers as well as doing like research online. But as I said, it was all online and talking to other people.
Okay. So, Your Honor, I would say that that's hearsay. I would request that that be struck.
Ms. Ives, what's your response?
Well, Your Honor, I think she can testify to the research and conclusions she's made from it, and the court can take it for what it is.
But she didn't just leave it to her own conclusions. She said what other people were telling her of how she based her opinion.
Well, I'll recognize that people, when they're dealing with schools, that they talk to multiple parents sometimes and friends and all that. We'll take it for what it's worth.
Okay. So did you hear the testimony from Battle Creek Montessori principal that the children actually have done very well historically and that Montessori kids actually integrate well?
I did not hear him saying historically. I did hear him saying that their school has started doing a thing that they integrate, which could very well make a difference. Like I said, I was talking to people who went to those schools when they were my age, you know, so it could be different now. I'm going based off of the research that I did.
Okay. And let's switch some topics up. Demetrius shows affection to you?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
And you show affection to him?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And who typically gets Demetrius's haircut?
Porter does.
Okay. Are you aware that that's something that's important to Porter to continue?
He did say that. Yes, ma'am.
Is that something that you're willing to continue to allow and agree with, that Porter takes him for his haircuts and has that bonding time with him?
Yes, ma'am. I do agree they should have that time.
Okay. And has there ever been a time that you've not been able to provide Demetrius with food?
No, ma'am.
What about clothing?
No, ma'am.
Have you ever asked Porter to contribute to clothing costs?
Yes.
And did he?
He dropped off some clothes. Yes, ma'am.
And you provide your own winter clothes and boots and things like that too?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you have any physical ailments or diagnosis?
Eczema, if that counts, and asthma.
That's fine. And then I'm assuming you've got medication for your asthma.
An inhaler.
Okay. And then do you have any mental health conditions or diagnoses?
Yes, ma'am. I was diagnosed with depression, anxiety, CPTSD, which is complicated post-traumatic stress disorder, and borderline BPD.
What is borderline BPD?
First, like personality disorder.
Okay. And how are you treating your depression, anxiety, CPTSD, and borderline BPD?
I go to therapy very often, and then I have cannabinoid. Sorry, it's going to sound very like weird, but there's cannabis pills for certain things. I do those, and then that's basically it.
All right. So
everything that I have can be with therapy.
Okay. So you don't have any medication that you're taking for your borderline BPD?
No.
And do you believe that your depression, anxiety, CPTSD, and borderline BPD are well controlled by the therapy and cannabinoid pills that you take?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you think that it impacts your ability to parent in any way?
No, ma'am.
Okay. What's the dose of cannabinoid pills that you're taking?
They're 10 milligrams.
And how many a day do you take?
Just the one.
And do you consume any other marijuana any other way to help address any of these issues or other?
I smoke occasionally and eat edibles depending on, different times of the month will affect different parts of how I deal with things.
Sure. Okay. And do you have a Facebook page?
I do.
Are you the only one that posts under your name on that page?
Most of the time, yes.
Okay. Are you aware of the numerous posts on your page that seem to be fairly passive aggressive towards fathers and things of that nature?
I could see how they could be taken that way after going back and looking through them, yes.
Okay. Do you believe that those posts paint an accurate view of Porter?
I believe that those posts are not about Porter.
Okay. So who are they about if they're not about Porter?
Literally no one. My page is an interaction page for the most part. So all of my memes and things that are on there are things that I giggle and then I share so that I get interactions on my page, because the more people that interact on it, the more I show up in other people's feeds and then people come into my job.
Do you think that it's helpful to you and Porter co-parenting and having any sort of ability to parent in a joint legal custody situation when you're posting things like that?
Up until recently, I was not thinking about it that way.
Okay. Do you think that those posts might paint an inaccurate view of Porter to the people who follow you?
If there are people who believe that, I guess it could.
Do you ever post that, hey, this isn't my baby daddy, but this is funny?
Yes, I do. Quite often, actually. And I also make posts that are like, hey, remember, this is not about my life.
If I asked you to take a look at the exhibits that I had sent to your attorney to use to refresh your memory, would that change your testimony?
I would have to look to see, but
I would like you to take a look at those to refresh your memory, please.
Is there a specific one you're talking about?
Well, I was trying to say that you said you testified that you quite often put on disclaimers about Porter. So those being text screenshots from your page of those types of posts, I was just wondering if you were able to show me any of them that say it.
Sorry, I don't recall saying that it was a disclaimer just about Porter. My disclaimers are in general because I share things all over the board. So
Okay.
when I put out disclaimers, I say, hey, this is not my life, or like, hey, this is not about me, but like some of y'all.
So in those posts that I've shared with you, do you say anything like that in any of them?
And any of these, not that I see.
Okay. And how many posts would you say you're looking at right there?
There is a good like 15 posts here, but only one of them says something about a baby daddy.
Okay. But does any of them have anything to say about disclaimers that you're saying you do?
I'm sorry, you cut out.
Oh, I'm sorry. The question was, but do any of those posts indicate anything about it, any sort of disclaimer that this isn't your life or that this isn't about someone you know?
And the ones you chose in particular, no.
Okay. And if I told you that those are indicative of all your posts, you would disagree?
I would.
Okay. Do you believe it's appropriate for Demetrius to have access to this sort of thing as he gets older?
I guess I'm not understanding your question because
Well, let me
he doesn't
rephrase
have
that and I'll
access
break
to
it down
social
for you a
media.
little bit. So this is your public profile page, correct?
It's not public, no, but yes.
Okay, but it's posted online and Demetrius at some point as he gets older could find it, correct? I'm assuming you'd be Facebook friends with him at some point.
At some point, yeah.
And so if he goes back to see, man, what was going on during the time when I was younger, do you think he'd see those posts, wouldn't he?
I assume so.
So do you think it's appropriate for your son to see you posting those types of things?
I guess not.
Okay. Does Demetrius have any special needs or circumstances?
No, not besides his glasses.
Okay. And does he have any learning disabilities or needs along those lines?
Besides our thought that he could have ADHD, no, he might have dyslexia, but I highly doubt it. I've been monitoring to see if I still believe that.
Okay. Do you believe that Demetrius could be abused or neglected while in Porter's care?
No.
Okay. Do you think that it's appropriate for you to make threats that you're going to kick in Porter's door?
No, it was not.
Okay. Do you think it's appropriate to contact others to make threats about Porter because he wasn't answering his phone?
No.
Okay. Is that how you would encourage Demetrius to try to handle a situation or an issue in his life?
No, me and Demetrius talk about how it's nice to take a breath and take a step back and talk through things and then go and figure out where to go from there.
Okay. And did you hear the testimony by Porter about how far apart the two of you live?
Yes.
Was that accurate?
I would say so, about 15 minutes or so, yeah.
Okay. And the distances between yourself and Battle Creek Montessori, was that accurate?
About.
Okay. Same for Fremont, between yourself and Fremont?
Yes, ma'am.
And the same for Dudley?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Have you ever failed to exercise your parenting time?
I have.
How often and for what reasons would you say? Estimate.
What kind of time frame are you looking at? And normally it's because I've gotten called into work or I have to cover someone or something of that sort.
That's fine. I'm specifically looking at maybe the last 2 years or so.
That's still a lot of difference because lately I haven't had that really happening at all.
That's okay. And if you haven't, if it's just the work shifts, I'm just wondering if there were other reasons why you weren't able to take your parenting time.
Mostly work shifts in the very beginning. There were a couple of times that I asked if he'd like to have the parenting time rather than getting a babysitter for a couple of hours.
Okay. And have you had any extra parenting time because Porter needed assistance or flexibility?
Occasionally, but it's really rare.
Okay. When he's needed that, were you willing to provide that flexibility?
I believe so.
Does he provide you with the reciprocal consideration and flexibility when you need it?
Most of the time, yes.
All right. And have you ever threatened to keep Demetrius from Porter?
Not that I recall.
And has he ever threatened to keep Demetrius from you?
Yes.
When?
When me and Miss Barstow got into our argument in June of 2021. He told me he'd keep him.
I'm sorry. Anything since June of 2021?
Not that I can recall. We try not to use that as a thing.
Did you hear the testimony that from my client that you had kept Demetrius over Christmas time for a week and a half?
I did not, but
Do you deny that you withheld time with Demetrius, with Porter during that time?
oh, I was gonna say what year? I was in a week and a half. Never.
That was for Christmas. Let me pull up my notes again. Christmas of 2022, when you guys had that disagreement after the exchange time.
Can I go back and check my notes? Because I do not believe he was kept from him for a week and a half. I kept my
don't mind.
days, like the Monday, Tuesday.
If you have something that you can reference that would refresh your memory, I don't mind.
If I'm not mistaken, I kept him until the 1st.
Okay,
He
so
went back on the 1st.
December
I got him on the
25th to the
25th.
1st?
And he went back the 1st.
Okay, so you kept him basically the entire end of January?
The entire end of December.
Or December, that's what I meant.
Yes, those couple of days.
Okay.
We were in Detroit.
So that would have been over a week because there's a week between Christmas and New Year's, correct?
I think so. It would have
Okay.
been a week.
Yep. All right. So regarding the switching from Dudley to Fremont, why switch to Fremont if he's doing so well at Dudley?
Because Fremont has the better curriculum and it's more geared towards what he likes. Demetrius is a very technological child, as Porter stated. And at Fremont, when you go to the first
Objection, as I say, this would be hearsay as far as what their curriculum is, because she would have had to have gotten that information from a third party.
Well, Your Honor, I think she can testify to her research and what she
I
knows.
was gonna say, it's-
Well, if she knows, I'm not gonna take it for verbatim truth, but if she thinks that it's a better curriculum, I think
I
she
just
can state
need-
that. Okay, ma'am, don't speak when I'm trying to give a ruling, okay? So I'll let her testify. Go ahead.
I just meant from what I've seen, it's the things that they do are different. They're more geared towards what he likes. The STEM is more advanced over at Fremont than it is at Dudley.
Okay. And you're aware that Montessori also has a cutoff enrollment date, correct? Application date, right?
I was not actually.
Okay. So why did you say that you tried to talk with Porter about Fremont if you had already decided that Fremont was where you wanted to go rather than Dudley?
Because I still have to talk to him and get him to agree to that. I can't just, this is different. It's first grade. This is the real beginning of his schooling. I can't just choose on that one.
Okay.
Though that's where I would like him to go and I applied for it, I cannot guarantee that that's where he'll go.
Okay. You applied without discussion or telling Porter until actually not telling him, correct?
He got the text message when I applied and I was aware that he would, and I kind of used that as his way of knowing.
Okay. Do you think that it would be beneficial for Demetrius to be able to do more hands-on things in school?
It could help him possibly, but I don't know enough.
Okay. Regarding the cannabinoid pills that you take, do you take those and drive?
No, I
What
take
time of
them
day
once I take them once I get to work, if that makes sense. And by the time I'm there, it is worn off, or like done with my shift, it's worn off, and then I go home.
Okay. Does Demetrius have an iPhone?
He does.
Does he have access to the internet?
He does. I put all the parental controls on, or at least I attempted to.
Do you share those with Porter so that he can help monitor?
Yes, I told him and Alicia his password.
When did you do that?
When he got the new phone that allowed me to be able to do all of that stuff, which
Okay.
was, I want to say, like 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks
Okay.
ago.
So why did you disregard Porter's concerns about the shark necklace?
His concerns weren't disregarded. They were taken into concern. Like I took them, I did more research, but also, in my opinion, it was just a necklace. Kids wear necklaces to school all the time. And if it did become a problem, we would take it away, which is exactly what happened.
Okay, but even though Porter tried to raise with you that it was an issue and causing problems at school, you didn't agree and continued to send the necklace to school though, didn't you?
The second I saw from the teacher that she said it was an actual problem, I did take it actually.
Okay, so you believe the teacher, but you didn't believe Porter.
Yes.
Okay. I have no further questions for this witness.
Okay. Ms. Ives, any direct examination, or do you wish to reserve that?
I think I'm gonna reserve that until it's my turn to call witnesses, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
Are you going to do your cross or are you doing both cross and direct reserved?
I'm gonna reserve both cross and direct.
Okay.
Okay.
Is Ms. Rose Crocker potentially available and waiting, or is she potentially still in the jury?
No, she's never joined.
Okay.
never joined.
Then at this time, I will step out in the hallway and have Ms. Alicia Skurlock log in and have her as my next witness.
Okay,